A continent dealing with ferocious battles. The ANC says most of these conflicts in Africa are driven by weak civilian governance structures and worsening poverty. President Ramaphosa says this has given rise to conditions where populist movements collaborate with military leaders.
While peace has been achieved in some areas, there is still war and conflict in several parts of Africa. There is general recognition that peace and stability will remain elusive if we do not address the relationship between security and development. This requires a multifaceted approach that includes improved governance, entrenched democratic norms, respect for human rights, and the political will to capacitate our institutions.
President Ramaphosa also used his speech to defend the country's stance on Russia-Ukraine conflict. He reaffirmed that Pretoria will always advocate for a peaceful solution.
This conference is taking place during rising geopolitical tensions, which are evident in a number of conflicts that are happening, especially in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The effects of these tensions include growing food, energy, and financial crises, which affect poorer countries the most. We reiterate our pronounced position and our call for a negotiated solution to the Russia-Ukraine conflict.
The governing party has also supported calls for the reforms of the United Nations Security Council. This especially after the US-Africa Leaders Summit, where the US President Joe Biden backed Africa's long-standing demand to have a permanent seat at the global body.
It was pleasing to hear an articulation in that summit supporting the call that we have always made, that Africa needs to be represented on the United Nations Security Council. The message is beginning to sink. In line with our conference resolutions, South Africa continues to advocate for the reforms that will address this issue.
It's a speech that clearly shed light on South Africa's foreign policy, that the country maintains a position that is pro the global south, maintains the strength of multilateral institutions, particularly United Nations, as a pillar for peace and security. I think the President also touched on ANC's government views on core areas of its interest, particularly on the African continent, issues of silencing the gun, strengthening the AU.
The ANC has pledged solidarity with the people of Cuba, Palestine, and called for the removal of sanctions in Zimbabwe. Khumalo, SABC News, Johannesburg.